sometimes we all get caught up in the cult of the new, but today we're talking about 10 games that have caught our eye but that little bit older.
Hi, I'm Julian and this is Libby and we are from BoxedMeeples. You found us on YouTube but also on all sorts of social media. Hive and Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, today we're talking about those slightly older games, not too old, that we've somehow managed not to play but we're desperate to and we really want to add to these shelves.
Yeah, in my mind this was sort of games that I kind of thought if I had have played them, they probably would have made my top 50 list, and they're sort of top end of my wish list. And we thought that we'd sort of balance out all that talking about new games. We're probably going to talk about games that we've really enjoyed that have released this year in the next couple of weeks. Spoiler alert. And obviously we often talk about Kickstarters and things like this. So this is just a list of games that we wish we'd been able to have a chance to play. And most of them are at least 2-3 years old, if not that little bit older, just so they're not sort of fresh out the block.
That's kind of how long I've been playing board games for. So a lot of these came out before I even knew that board games were more than Monopoly and Cluedo. So, or were coming out about that time when I was still playing party games. So it's interesting to look back and go, oh, I wish I'd played that. Because that now, if I had the wealth of experience I've got playing board games at that point, I would have been all over it. And now a lot of them you can't get very easily, or they're very expensive to get now because you've missed the print one. There's going to be a lot of kicking myself. So I've given you 5 games I've picked. You've picked 5 games as well.
Luckily there was no overlaps.
It's unlikely there would be.
There was almost one.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll come to that later.
You're going to be able to tell who's whose. I'm pretty sure if you watch our channel regularly, you'll know which games belong to who. But you've got the list of 10.
I do, yes.
So without further ado, what's our first?
Shall I start?
You start.
Okay, so one that I'm desperate to play it, get a copy. I know there was a recent reprint on crowdfunding, but yeah, I couldn't spend any more on board games at that point in time, so I've missed it again potentially, but hopefully it will come my way at some point. It's Vindication. And I know this is one that I've spoken about a lot to you, and I'm sure I have mentioned it in the channel at some point previously. I think it was one that I was hoping to maybe find like gold dust in the bring and buy or something.
You're going to stumble across it in a charity
shop. And basically you've been sort of chucked overboard, having been wretched, and you're sort of on this new, I think it's an island, from what I gathered, but a new land that you're not familiar with, and you've just kind of got to bring back your reputation and get yourself back to being a good and worthy human being. You're going to meet some people on the way and they're going to join your little clan, and you might have to go and find some bits that you need, some relics, go fight some monsters, and you're just wandering about trying to do what you can do. I think it's quite Euro-y, although it doesn't sound it from that description. So
it sounds your normal level of complicated.
Yeah. I don't think it's actually rated as complicated as some of the other games on this list, actually. Okay. It's sort of middle of the road, I would say.
Yeah, it's certainly be one we look for when we go to the UK Games Expo. Maybe we'll see it in the bring and buy or something. There's going to be somewhere
probably
finding
not,
these.
But we can live in hope.
So what's next? What's next on our list?
Next one for you is Detective City of Angels. Now, I know that this has a book in it that has the word sleuth on the front of it, and there's also some sleuthing hats. So I feel like that alone is just like ticking every box known to man.
I think I've mentioned in the past, I love that kind of film noir, kind of golden age of Hollywood era. And yeah, I've seen lots of reviews on this, and we've been enjoying recently Chronicles of Crime. And I've heard Z Garcia say, compare it to a video game I really like called L.A. Noire. So it's that kind of game in board game form where you're in 1940s Hollywood solving crimes, and it's got a kind of heavy narrative slant on it. So it's got an element of that role playing as you are competing or cooperating, depending on your position within the game, with each other to solve the crimes in the most efficient way possible. Meanwhile, taking certain clues from each other And yeah, so the 8 cases that come with the game look incredibly diverse, and the game itself looks amazing. It's got the art by Vincent Dutray, and yeah, it's a really intriguing production, because I've always enjoyed those kind of detective style films, and to find equivalents in board games is really exciting to me. So yeah, it's very, very expensive now. I don't know if it was originally very expensive and now it's even more expensive because it's out of print. It came out sort of 2 years ago. So I might well have to settle with Tiny Epic Crimes in the short term, but I would love to get my hands on Detective City of the Angels.
Yes, sounds great. There's also Gloom City File, the adventure game, that could
Yes.
be a nice substitute there.
That could help.
Tide you by.
Yeah, so anything that involves a sleuthing hat would be ideal.
Yeah. Next up for me, I think if you watch the channel, you know that I love the sort of Viking theme, and I am yet to play A Feast for Odin, and I feel like it's a classic.
Yep.
It sounds like there's a lot going on the board, loads of different options. I mean, there's a lot of options for a Viking. He can stay at home and do all his farming and hang out, or he can go off, explore and pillage and do what Vikings do on their boats and stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's one that's always sort of intrigued me. I know a lot of the sort of mechanisms seem interesting. So I think it has a patchwork element within the game.
Right, yeah.
So we do enjoy patchwork. We have the Valentine's Day edition of that. So obviously, you know, when that gets to come out, it won't be a couple of months, and we'll have some little chocolate hearts going around. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how sort of a game within another game with lots of things, lots of choices. Whether that means it's a little bit analysis paralysis. Where do I do? What do I do? I explore? Do I go farming? Do I have to do everything? Yeah, so that's one that's high on my list.
Okay, well, the next one I've picked. I've already alluded to how much I enjoy the Tiny Epic games, and a game that isn't tiny but is quite epic is Heroes of Land, Air and Sea, which is Scott Elms's sprawling 4X game. But interestingly, it's a 4X game that only takes 30 minutes per player. So we have all of those expansion and that combat, but it's condensed and streamlined. Some people really, really like it. Some people think it's trying to do too much too quickly, and it becomes kind of laden with its own, ambition in a way. Obviously, having not played it, I can't talk too much about it, but I know it has elements of many of the Tiny Epic games in it, and often I find Scott Elms makes an incredible game. So if this is his, not masterpiece, but his kind of epic game, I'd like to see that, because what I said about Tiny Epic Dungeons was I really enjoyed it, but felt it was limited by its timeness.
Yeah.
So if you've got a game that isn't got those constraints, and I mean, it's literally the opposite of a Tiny Epic box. It's huge.
Yeah.
And with all those expansions, I've got to accept I'm never going to get the painted version. That's just not going to be something I could ever get. But I would love to get my hands on just the base game. Or we've got a friend who has everything to do with Heroes, Land and Sea. So
you just need to tie him down.
Yeah, it'd be nice to actually play that with him and then see if it's something for me. I have had it in my hands a few times. In various shops.
I nearly bought it for you maybe 2 Christmases ago, and that was a painted option, and I didn't think that it would get over to the UK in time, so then I kind of had to change tack on that idea. So unfortunate that, but interesting that actually, we've played a lot of the Tiny Epic games since, but this was a game that you were actually really interested prior to having played quite a few of those. Yeah. And it's kept up on your list of ones that you're interested for, and you still.
I do keep an eye out in the sales, and it's on my watch list. If it was cheap, I would buy it. But I think I've been holding out on opportunities to buy it, hoping I get the painted version. But I've started painting again, so I can just paint it myself. Maybe that'll be a solution.
You definitely could. One that I have been very interested in, a friend of mine played it right back when it first delivered as a Kickstarter, and that's On Mars. It's a Lasada game, and if I'm honest, that quite a few of his games are pretty high on my list. I know when we were at the expo, I almost brought On Mars and Kanban EV. And then I realised how much I'd already spent in the Bring and Buy and probably shouldn't have brought more. But yeah, I'm interested in that one. There's Lisboa, there's Rococo, is it? I think it is.
They have very similar sized boxes, but I know nothing about any of them.
I mean, they'll look beautiful together on a shelf, wouldn't they? All those same little boxes together in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But On Mars is probably the one that if I had to pick, that would be the one that I would want to play first.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, we've mentioned a few times how we enjoy the idea of terraforming Mars, but there's a few things for us we don't absolutely love about it. And I would hope in my head this is a game that gives that sort of Marsy, spacey kind of building up the world of Mars is what you're trying to do. I love the idea that you're sort of shuttling between the space station and onto the planet whilst you're trying to make the air breathable, you're trying to sort of do all the things that you would need to do to make the planet habitable, which isn't a dissimilar idea to terraforming Mars, but I think it is a more complex game. And I think it might take a moment or two to get you to sort of get to the table of it. Sometimes you sort of slightly wary of the higher weight games. But if we could wrangle up some friends to do a good teach on it, I think I can get us all to a table. That would be great. I would love to play that one.
Now, a game I really like is Scythe, and I've been playing Scythe for a few years now. And often when I've said I like Scythe, people go, "Do you like Kemet?" Now, Kemet is a game that everyone seems to love if they love that kind of area control, tactical kind of combat-driven games. And considering that another game I like is Root, I think this is probably going to be something that really appeals to me, particularly because it's just recently had the Blood in the Sand kind of reversioning of it. So any kind of wrinkles in the gameplay that were, stopping it from being as celebrated as it should be, I think have been smoothed out to make a masterpiece. And if that's the case, this is something I should probably play.
Yes.
I've seen it a few times and people have invited me to games, but I've kind of shied away from it because, as you were saying, I get a bit scared of more complicated games. But I think Kemet is a game I'm likely going to really enjoy, considering I like a lot of the games it's often compared to. So, yeah, Kemet, Blood in the Sand is a game that is very much on my wish list.
Yeah,
having never played it.
In my head, and this could be way off kilter, but in my head I feel like it's the sandy kind of, but would still have Eclipse vibes.
Okay.
In terms of its, not in terms of how you play and them exactly, but just in terms of how big a game or sprawl and stuff like that. And we love Eclipse.
Yeah.
So
Sandy Eclipse sounds good. Sandy Eclipse with bits of Scythe. Yes, please.
I'll just call it that, and then that will sell it to get to the table. That's one that I would like to play as well. It's not the crossover, but that is one that I'm interested in trying and comparing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a gap in
the collection.
Yeah. One that has been mentioned as a great Euro on lots of lists, lots of things that I've seen, is Anachrony.
Right.
And I know there's essential editions, and there's so there was probably older ones, and there's a lot of new bits and bobs and alliances or extra bits and things. But essentially, if someone puts it in their number one Euro game, I'm going to be interested in knowing what that is and wanting to give that a try. And so have been for a little while now. I also love the idea of the theme. It seems like you've got to go back in time in order to sort of work out what's going on, but without fracturing time.
It's often a worry.
It is a worry. So that balance between how much do you go back, what are you affecting forwards, and how you're going to sort of manage different things, but in a Euro-y game that has that kind of exciting theme is just one that I am super,
Yeah. I mean,
super keen to try.
You love a Euro game.
Yes.
And I must confess, the idea of being able to travel back in time to set things up so you get more resources, I think is really exciting and a nice twist on that, because often a lot of the Euro games can, not all, feel often very similar, and we have very favourite kind of Euro games. So if something isn't trying something new, it doesn't particularly excite me, because if it's just doing something else does, well, I've already played that game and like that game. So yeah, a Euro game that kind of twists things up is going to be really appealing.
Interesting, yeah.
And it has a nice white box.
It does. The box looks lovely. Yeah. Wonderful on the shelves.
Do you know what I love? What house animal I love?
I mean, I feel like I know where you're going here, but I'm going to say the wrong animal anyway, because you love a fox, but that's not the right answer.
It's not so much a house animal, but I love cats. I love cats. I love cats. I love cats. I've never played Isle of Cats, and people talk about polyomino games, and that's the one that bubbles to the surface over and over again. Those cats on a boat and trying to maximise your placement of polyomino tiles on this boat seems really fun and exciting. I don't quite know why I've never played it yet.
No, and there's an expansion as well.
There's many an expansion. It's got kittens in it.
Although the expansion's new and we're talking about older games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. Hold off the expansion for a good couple of years.
I'll get to learn the base game first. But yeah, the Isle of Cats does really appeal. As you said earlier, we have played polyomino games. We've played Patchwork.
And we played a game that actually came out this year, Planet Unknown. Loved that. That was a polyomino, interesting, with a Lazy Susan.
So obviously it's a game mechanism we enjoy, and obviously Patchwork is limited just being played with 2. So Isle of Cats is, I think, one that I'd enjoy, and because I love cats.
Yeah, I mean, I am more of a dog person, you're more of a cat person. So if it have been dog themed, I love
cats. Yeah, I grew up with cats, love cats. I don't know quite why I haven't played this game, but anyway, it's on my to play list.
It should be. So lastly on my list is Spirit Island. This is interesting because it's more of a sort of co-op style game, but seems more sort of in-depth than many that you would think of in that sort of co-op situation. You are playing sort of like the spirits, the sort of gods of this island, sort of defending it from the invaders, which is an interesting sort of flip on things. I think a lot of board games have obviously covered periods in history where ones have invaded and trying to take over and do different things with the land than the natives had. So this is a nice change in that sort of respect. The box looks very interesting. I hear that it's quite tricky, and I like a challenge. And I think that the different gods play slightly differently. I know, again, there's several expansions and stuff which are now available, but it'd be good to try the base game to start with.
Well, often it's a game that's recommended as being good for 2, which is great for us. Yeah. And there's lots of nice touches I like about it, like how all of the natives have wooden tokens, yet all of the invaders are plastic. It's like little bits like that I like in games. And it does look brilliant. It looks lovely.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it's set on an island aesthetically, like green tick already, even if it doesn't have boats or Vikings.
It's because we live on an island. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, no, that one I've had it in several baskets and several wish lists at several points, and someday I will press go and it will probably be added to the collection. But it's definitely high on the playlist either way.
You know what we're going to be looking out for in those Boxing Day sales. Yeah. So my last pick, I know we're going to love, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid to get one because this is a slippery slope that's going to end up with one becoming many. Unmatched. Talking about really good 2-player games, Unmatched is obviously a 2-player game with asymmetric powers for each character, with lots and lots of expansions, lots of versions that meld together, creating lots of fun, interesting combinations of battles.
Yeah.
Everything about it seems to be exactly what I enjoy playing with you. Quick, easy to table, but yes, one game will not remain one game with Unmatched. partly because it doesn't warrant that. It needs to expand to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I suppose if you've got like just one box of it, then you are limited to sort of switching between those characters, and then it won't be too long before wanting to sort of mix it up and have something a bit different. So yeah, you are often tend to be afraid of those that will lead to said slippery slopes.
Yes. Well, now we've got every villainous. Although we have refrained recently, we really enjoyed Dice Phone, playing Marvel Dice Phone, and we have so far refrained from buying everything Dice Phone. So maybe there's an opportunity we can be more selective of some characters and get that good experience without feeling the need to get the really expensive unavailable ones that you now can only buy second hand for an extortionate amount. But yes, I'd like to play Unmatched. Whether or not it enters our collection is entirely down to restraint. So yes.
We will see. Yeah, I think for Dice Throne, I can definitely see we will complete the Marvel characters. And if they bring new ones out, of course, we're going to have to add on those. But I feel like we probably, at this stage, won't get the sort of Series 1, Series 2 as well. We'll stick with the Marvel for now. And let's just see what happens with Unmatched.
And see, yeah.
And some of the other Marvel games that are out there that have lots of other characters to be added to them too.
Yes. But which of our games do you think we should, put top on our to buy list? Which of the games we talked about do you really love? Which are your favourites? And therefore, let us know in the comments below, why you love them, and try and convince us that these are games that definitely should be in our collection at whatever ridiculous cost they are largely now going to be.
These are ones that we think that would make our top 50 if we had played them.
Yes.
Do you agree, having sort of played them yourself? That would be interesting to find out. I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Obviously, if you have discovered us by accident, please do consider subscribing. We post videos like this twice a week, every week, and all about board games. If you like board games, that's going to be right up your street.
Yep, we would love it if you would do that, and don't forget that we have other socials as well, so there's always time to follow us on Insta, Twitter, Hive, etc.
And yeah, you want to stick around, because I'm pretty sure that within a few videos some of these will be unboxed and stuffed on your shelf in the background. I'll let you keep an eye out for those and see how quickly we crack. Thanks so much for watching.
See ya.